tent over the tabernacle and put the cover, the second cover on the tent, on it from above. Verse 20, he took and placed the testimony into the ark, which means he put the stone tablets into the ark and inserted the staves, the poles into the ark, and he placed the cover of the ark from above with the two cherubs. He brought the ark into the tabernacle and put the partition sheltering the ark. Verse 22, he put the table on the north side of the tabernacle and he prepared bread for it. Verse 24, he put the menorah opposite the table on the south side and he kindled the lamps before Hashem. Verse 26, he placed the golden altar in the tent of meeting in front of the partition, and upon it he burnt the incense spices. Verse 28, he placed the curtain of the entrance of the tabernacle. He placed elevation offering altar at the entrance of the tent of meeting. If you remember, the elevation offering had a ramp, a very long ramp to rise up. Now someone is asking, what was the bread for? The table, the wooden table that was plated with gold, had 2 racks, and each rack had 6 shelves. Together there was place for 12 loaves of bread. This bread was baked on Friday, and on Shabbat morning they would bring this bread and put it onto the shelves. There were 12 loaves, each one on its own shelf. The bread would stay on those shelves for the entire week. The following week they would again bake bread on Friday, and Shabbat morning Kohanim would come and they would stand in 2 groups. One group on one side of the table, one group on the other side of the table. And as the first group slid the old loaves out, the other group slid the new loaves onto the table. This way the table always had bread on it. Now the old bread, 1 week old bread that they took off, on that Shabbat they would divide it between the Kohanim that were in the temple, and each Kohen would receive a portion and eat it. And the Talmud derives from a verse in the prophets that this bread, even though it was 7 days old, 7.5 days old, it was still warm and it still was soft and fresh as if it was baked just now. Okay, now verse 29, he put the elevation offering outside and brought up upon it the elevation offering and the meal offering, the Olah and the Mincha, as Hashem had commanded Moshe. He placed the curtain at the entrance, he placed the laver. Verse 30, he put the wash basin from copper between the tent of meeting and the altar, and there he put water for washing. Moshe, Aharon and his sons washed their hands and feet from it when they came to the tent of meeting, and when they approached the altar they would wash as Hashem commanded Moshe. We turn to page 541. He erected the courtyard. He hung the lace hangings on pillars all around the tabernacle and the altar, and he emplaced the curtain as the gate of the tabernacle. So Moshe completed the work. Verse 34, the cloud covered the tent of meeting, and the glory of Hashem filled the tabernacle. Moshe could not enter the tent of meeting, for the cloud rested upon it, and the glory of Hashem filled the tabernacle. When the cloud was raised up from upon the tabernacle, the children of Israel would embark on all their journeys. We will learn later that the way the Jewish people knew when it's time to travel was through this cloud. When the cloud would rise from the tabernacle, that was a sign for the Jewish people to get ready and start traveling. They would disassemble the tabernacle, wrap all the utensils, load the beams on wagons. The Levites would carry all the holy utensils on their shoulders, and they would travel. And then when the time came to stop, the cloud was traveling in front of them. And wherever the cloud would stop and descend, they knew they need to stop. They would surround the cloud and make the camp. In the middle where the cloud is, they would build the tabernacle again, and the cloud would then rest on the tabernacle. Verse 37, if the cloud did not rise up, they would not embark until the day it rose up. For the cloud of Hashem would be on the tabernacle by day, and fire would be on the tabernacle at night, before the eyes of all the house of Israel throughout their journeys. Chazak, chazak v'nitchazek. When we conclude the reading of the entire book of Moshe, we say, be strong, and may we be strengthened. As well as when we perform any mitzvah, we finish the mitzvah, we tell each other chazak, chazak, just like the common saying chazak ubaruch. When a person finishes a mitzvah, we tell him you should be strong and do more mitzvot. Now, just as a introduction to the next book is called Vayikra, because the first word of the Parsha of the book is Vayikra, means and he called him. In English it's called Leviticus, coming from the word Levi, because mostly it speaks about the tribe of Levi, the work of Levites and the work of Kohanim, who were part of the tribe of Levi. Now we concluded the discussion about the construction of the Mishkan, but the next book, the third book of the Torah, will speak about how the Mishkan was used. It will describe to us all the offerings, the Olah and the Chatat and the Asham and the Shalamim, and it will describe the rules of the service in the Mishkan, as well as rules of spiritual impurity, when Kohanim are allowed to serve and when they become impure and therefore they cannot enter the tabernacle, or when the offering becomes impure and it cannot be offered. And majority of the next book is speaking about laws relating to Kohanim and temple service. With this we conclude Parshat Pekude and we conclude the book of Exodus. Thank you for listening. Shabbat Shalom Umevorach.